Atletico Madrid have signed Álex Baena from Villarreal for almost 50 million euros. Yeah, 50. Do you like this, Rob? Do you like this deal, Rob? Sorry.
Absolutely. Everyone's a winner. I think Villarreal have got a very good price for a very talented player. Atletico have got an international class player in an area that they do need to improve. They need to refresh there under Simeone. They need a little bit more energy in the team. And he's a Spain international. And to be a Spain international midfield player currently, with all of the players that they have out there as well, the guy has done good. So, maybe it's a slightly inflated price by Spanish standards, but I think it's an absolutely fantastic deal for Atletico Madrid and Villarreal. And I'm very excited to see him next season.
And he's only 23, isn't he? So that left-hand side where we saw Gallagher playing or we saw Barrios playing at times and players that maybe were more defensive-minded than a proper left side creative player, at least with Baena, that would be another option. El Cholo can still play a more defensive-minded player there if he wants to or if the opposition needs him to. But at least with Baena, you could have Giuliano on one side and Baena on the other side in a 4-4-2 that actually gives you a lot of creativity on each flank.
Yep, looks like his kind of player. Now, Olivier Giroud is officially back in France. He will play for Lille, and this is a pretty big story, Jules.
Oh, it is. It was massive. I mean, and to be fair, he's a World Cup winner, and I know he's 39 in September, so coming back to finish his career, but he's still really fit. You look at him, and it doesn't really look like he's 39 years old. I think it's big for Ligue 1 to have both Paul Pogba in Monaco coming back, Olivier Giroud in Lille coming back as well to the league. I think for Olivier, it's 13 years after he left Montpellier to come to Arsenal and start his international career, if you want, abroad. I'm not sure how well he's going to do and how many goals he's going to score, but you know that he's going to be a great guy to have in your dressing room. I don't know if you saw, Rob, but they put they announced him on their social media platforms and everything by making him appear basically in the middle of the Grand Place in Lille, in the city centre. So he was there in his shirt, and you had all the tourists, all the people who live in Lille were there, and then suddenly Giroud was there, and they did it really well. It was really nice. And then he had his press conference on Wednesday, and he was so excited, and I think he's great. I love it when instead of going to Saudi, for example, where he could have gone, or even staying in MLS where he was not doing that well. I like the fact that he can kind of have one last challenge to go back home and play in Ligue 1 to kind of end that cycle of his career. One season, maybe two. He's got a 2-year contract. See how well he does or doesn't do so well, but he will be there. And I just love that from him. So I'm really happy he's back home.
Absolutely.
Rob, who is Suarez Castrelo, and why are we talking about him on this show?
Well, he's an 18-year-old youth team player that was playing for Atletico Madrid, hasn't played for them since last October. That's because he's been stalling on signing a contract, and he is going from Atletico to Real Madrid. And this is a big story. Exactly. And it's not just a big story because he's gone from one to the other. It means they have broken a non-aggression pact that the clubs have. They've kind of got this gentleman's agreement that they will not steal players from each other, because the likes of Atletico and Barcelona and Real are kind of shopping from the same kind of superstores and the same shelf as well. And but then again, Atletico are pretty angry about it. But then again, he came from Sporting Gijón to Atletico Madrid. But he is a bit of a star. He's one of the hot young prospects. He's played for Spain at youth level as well. And that is why you're hearing about him. And it may take a couple of years to hear a little bit more about him. But as we know, in Spain and all over the world, the players and the stars are getting younger, aren't they?
Yeah, very much so.
Now, Jonathan David has not taken long to find his new club, Jules, and it is Juventus.
It is Juventus, and you might find it a little bit surprising that it's Juventus because they already have Dusan Vlahovic, obviously, on their books, who doesn't play much. They've got Randal Colomwani on their books, who's still loaned out by PSG to Juventus, but they want to keep him, and he wants to stay as well. So you're thinking, okay, another number 9 there. They might play with 2 up front, maybe, but then what do you do with Conceição and Yildiz behind them? But clearly, Joe David thought this was the best club for him. For Juventus, they're getting a player as a free agent. Nobody's free anymore, but you don't have a transfer fee to pay. And I really think he's a wonderful striker. And I think he's ready now to make that step up from Lille and from Ligue 1 to a better club. And Juventus are a better club. And I think maybe Italian football will suit him well. I would have liked to see him with you in La Liga, Rob, and see what he could have done there. But there's not many players. I think only 6 players in Europe have scored more goals than him for the last 5 years domestically in their league, and they are the big names. There's Salah and Mbappe, Lewandowski, Haaland, those kind of guys. So he's been super consistent in scoring goals, 20 plus goals each season for Lille in Ligue 1. So let's see how he does in Serie A. Let's see how Juventus play with him and who plays next to him or who plays behind him. But I think it's a signing that makes sense for Juventus, and for him, it's a great new challenge that I'm sure he will thrive on. Victor Gyökeres and Eze are both in talks with Arsenal right now, Rob, for a move this summer. Are they the right players, do you think, for the Gunners? And it feels like Gyökeres is the one more advanced of the two, but there's a lot of people who think that Eze could also be a good signing for the Gunners.
Yeah, I think there are two players that would walk into any kind of top 5 team in England, or indeed the other major leagues in the world as well. And you can't say that about too many players as well. I think, I look at Manchester United, and I don't think they're signing top 5 players. But Gyökeres may be the player to fill that void of a striker, and he is a proper centre forward, a goal scorer that Arsenal, the fans and the media and everybody who watches Arsenal have been screaming out for as well. He's a guy that is just so hungry for goals. It looks like he's severing his ties over there in Portugal in more ways than one. When it comes to Eze as well, he's an exciting talent. He's far from the finished product, but I think he would fit very much into the Arsenal system if they get him there as well. If Gyökeres gets in the starting 11, then they expect him to start scoring goals from day one. Whereas Eze, I think they can kind of blend him into the team, and they can use him sparingly as well, and then with that massive expectation. But he can take his game with Arsenal in the Champions League and with England as well to the whole next level.
I think for Arsenal fans listening, I think the Gyökeres one, who seem now to be the number one option ahead of Sesko. I think for a while it was one or the other. Even within the club, I think it was divided on who was more of a Sesko guy and who was more of a Gyökeres guy. It seems like Gyökeres now is the priority for them. The thing with Eze, they would need to sell, I think, to get to Eze. For Gyökeres, whether it's 60, 65, maybe 70 million, I think they can do that they have the money right now. For Eze, I think they will have to sell first. The likes of Kivior, Zinchenko, maybe Fabio Vieira, who's back now from his loan at Porto. I think they will need to sell first to be able to do the Eze transfer. Gyökeres, I think, is a more straightforward deal that they can afford right now. Eze will take a bit longer because I think they will have to sell first.
It's busy times behind the scenes at Arsenal because you'll say also like Akliouche, have I said that correctly, and Mosquera.
Yeah. So Akliouche, I can give more of an insight in there. Marnes is a wonderful young player, really has done wonders at Monaco, played in the Champions League, played for France under 21, and is very close to the France A team, really left-footed player that can play out wide. He's a number 8 and number 10 position. There's a lot of things that Akliouche can do, super smart player. And Rob, as you know, Paris born and bred, which makes him extra special, obviously, in my eyes. And for Joaquin Mosquera, you've seen him a lot at Valencia. Tell us a little bit more of the player he is. He can play right back, he can play centre back.
Yeah, he's a tremendous footballer all round. I think he'd probably play holding midfield player as well if they wanted to play there as well. They developed him very slowly at Valencia. He's got more and more game time as well. He's a fantastic athlete. He's a very good footballer. He has presence. He kind of fills that void in the centre of defence. He's got speed. And yeah, if he came to a bigger club than Valencia, he's not the finished product. But again, he's a player that may be the 3rd or 4th centre-back at a club. And he would be a very wise signing for any team.
Rob, for Akliouche, I think Monaco would probably want around the 50 million mark for him. For Mosquera, we're talking, 20 million euros, maybe, something like that, a bit more?
You would imagine, because Valencia don't have a great deal of bargaining power. They're absolutely broke at the moment. So I think they would start listening to any offers over about 20, probably ask for 30, and then probably settle somewhere in the middle as well. But yeah, I think whoever got him would be getting an absolute bargain at that kind of figure.
I agree. Everton have also found a new player, and their new striker for next season is Thierno, the French under-21 international. We both know him really well. What do you make of this deal for Everton?
Do you know what? It's encouraging. Barry is one of these players who, again, is learning his game. I think he's only 22 years of age. He's played for France, isn't he, at youth level as well. I think he scored 11 goals, 37 games last season. First made his name a couple of years over there at Basel. And he developed as the season went on. And I live on Merseyside. I've got more Evertonian supporters than any other team for some reason. I don't know how I managed to kind of attract these Evertonians, and they'll be asking me about him. And he's a break from what Everton have been doing for the last few years as well, where they they sign players whose best years are behind them, have had a reputation at a big club. And this is going back to the old days of David Moyes, where he signed players and talent where the best years were ahead of them, and he could develop them as well. And if Barry comes into the team and he comes to Everton as well as to be as expected, then they have amazing raw talent. I think he's 6'5". They need a striker to replace Calvert-Lewin up there as well. I think at the moment they've only got 14 senior professionals signed to the clubs. They would take anybody. But yeah, I'm encouraged by it, as somebody has links to Everton as well, that they're signing a player at this kind of level.
You know, I like him a lot. I've seen him developing in Switzerland, as you mentioned, with Basel. He had, some have linear careers, right? They are really good when they're kids. They go through academies. They don't have to be like Mbappe, but that kind of pathway, really, and trajectory towards professional football and first team football. For Thierno, it's been very more difficult. He had to go through lower leagues and then to Switzerland, and then Villarreal scouted him there, and he did well for them last season. He's very raw, as you mentioned, because he's still young, and because not just young at 22, but also because, as we've been saying, his pathway towards the top has been quite difficult. So there's still a lot to learn. But I was with Akliouche the other day, who's the France under 21 assistant coach, and he's a massive fan, and he says there's so much potential there to really have a great player on your hands. So I'm sure Moyes can do wonders with Barry. He's a good kid, as well, that listens, that works hard, that is always there, wants to improve all the time. So I think this could be, I know it's a bit of money, £35 million, I believe, or something like that. I get that for somebody with so much limited experience really of first team football and top flight football, certainly in the big five leagues. But I think he's a very promising one. So I think well done Everton on this.
Good news for the Blues. Well, Serge Aurier, the former Tottenham and Paris Saint-Germain defender, is without a club, Jules, but it could have been very different.
It could have, Rob, because a few weeks ago he got a call from Mehdi Benatia, who is a Marseille sporting director. We said, "Hey Serge," they know each other really well, obviously from playing years together and etc. And he said, "Why don't you come to Marseille?" And Serge said this now very famous line, saying, "I would rather starve than play for that team," which I thought was a great line from Serge Aurier, who was born in Ivory Coast but moved to Paris when he was really young. So I think I can claim him as a Paris born and bred kid. And PSG is very much his club. Paris very much his city. And there is nowhere in a million years that Serge Aurier will one day wear the Marseille jersey, like Adrien Rabiot, another of my PSG Paris born and bred player and persons, like Rabiot is doing right now, because he obviously went there from Juventus to Marseille, and a lot of people in Paris didn't like it at all. For Serge Aurier, this could have never happened. He said he would rather starve, Rob, than actually wear that shirt. Barcelona have let Ansu Fati go to Monaco on loan after his loan to Brighton 2 seasons ago and coming back to the club last year. And while they're still hoping to recruit Nico Williams at the club, Rob, what do you make of both these? First, Ansu Fati, what do you think of that move to Monaco? And then, do you think Nico will happen to end in Barcelona? And what does that mean for Rafinha, for example, who was playing on that left-hand side?
Well, for Ansu Fati, very clever of Barcelona. They signed him to a new contract, I think, to the year 2028, and then a couple of days later, they've loaned him out to Monaco. I don't think he's got any future at Barcelona. They've made that very clear. But I hope for the young man, because he was a talent, and he had that horrible injury. He's never come back. That Monaco, the blue skies and the beautiful waters and that fantastic French air that you have as well. And they are the team of the Lost Boys at the moment, aren't they? It has restorative powers for him, and he can find his talents again, and he's va-va-voom, and he can come back. When it comes to Nico Williams, this is a deal that everybody thought was going to happen last summer, but Barcelona didn't have the bucks to take him to Catalonia. It went a little bit quiet during the season as Rafinha took off and he was playing in that position. Yep, it looks like Nico is back on, especially as the Spanish Federation have relaxed the financial constraints that Barcelona have at the moment. Hopefully it's just a question of time and maybe what number he takes as well.
But what? So what? Okay, imagine he signs. Nico Williams signs. What, you play Lewandowski as your 9? I mean, you need a space for Rafinha. So Rafinha will then move from the left-hand side to a more central position. Nico on the left, Lamine on the right, which means no room for a Dani Olmo, maybe Fermin Lopez, and then you have your midfield too, whether that's De Jong and Pedri or whoever else you want behind that. That's one, that's very attacking. 2, you're moving out Rafinha from a position where he had a really good season, as you said, both in the league and in the Champions League. La Liga player of the season, one of the Champions League player of the season as well, into a different new position for him. Is Nico really worth all that kind of hassle plus the money on top?
I must admit, in my head, I've had exactly the same argument as you. I'm wondering where he fits into the Barcelona picture. And when you think of Nico Williams, you think about him attacking down the wing. But maybe this is the answer to the long-term question: what happens without Robert Lewandowski? When maybe we keep saying it's his last season, then he keeps coming back with an absolute bag full of goals as well. But they have to future-proof at Barcelona, and maybe what they do is see a different role to Nico Williams, where he doesn't play the traditional 9 role, or maybe Rafinha moves into the centre, or maybe they give eventually, we've been talking about the number that Lamine Yamal is going to wear, maybe they give him number 9 and he takes that position as well. But I have to say, on last year's best starting 11, it does seem that signing Nico Williams is a little bit of a luxury, but there's a little time frame to take players like that, and it appears that is the time frame for Barcelona. But again, what happens with Dani Olmo?
Yeah, you're right, absolutely. It'd be interesting to see, though, to be fair.